Hi, folks. We're on episode 22 now, so we're getting towards we're getting to the last race of the season in '88 now. Just in the last episode, I was telling you about the log cabin or the rog cabin, and how we ended up with a fabulous party after the race at Suzuka. But that one was all finished. Everything was packed up. All the freight was on its way to Australia, and we were about to follow. There were 2 weeks between these Grand Prix. Obviously, we were never going to fly home from Japan back to the UK, so we'd got the absolute luxury of a week off in Adelaide. We'd not got all the freight was being shipped over by Fokker and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, we'd got a week's holiday, and you couldn't wish for a better place to really spend some downtime than in Australia. So we get out of Suzuka, fly out from Narita Airport, and over to Adelaide. And I think the first thing that we did was after we checked into our hotel, bit of a wash and brush up and everything, and we headed to a place called Hindley Street, which is almost sort of like the epicenter of the entertainment and the the nightlife in Adelaide. Really, I mean, Adelaide is it's known as the city of churches. But I believe it's quite a quiet place, for 50 weeks of the year. But the 2 weeks of the year when the Grand Prix boys used to get there in the F1 circus, you've never known such a country and a city embrace what F1 was all about and wanting to have a party. I mean, these days it's all, everybody goes to Australia. They enjoy Melbourne and things like that, but it's the start of the year, and Adelaide was always the last race of the year, so it was something that we always looking forward to. I remember at Spa, the Arrows team, they had a minibus and they got stickers on the door. And through the weekend at Spa, they'd got something like 64 days to Adelaide, and then the next day it would be 63 days to Adelaide, 62 days to Adelaide, something like that. Everybody just couldn't wait to get out there. So we undid our bags, headed off down to Hindley Street, and we found this little bar where we would sit and spend the whole afternoon just drinking beer, drinking Bundy and Coke, and just chilling out ridiculously. Now, this particular bar wasn't a place that we ever visited again through the whole fortnight. We did it 2 or 3 times. When we landed in Adelaide, we went to this little bar, and that was it. And there'd be myself, Harvey, the chief mechanic, who was an Australian anyway, so he knew his way around the various Australian beers and drinks. The rest of the truckies, Moose, Biddy, George, 1 or 2 other guys, and we would just, as I say, just sit there, taking in the whole chilled atmosphere of the place. But then, we'd go out at night, and we'd have a lot of fun. But this particular year in '88, we'd got various sort of activities that were lined up for us. Now, 1 or 2 of the team were incredibly skillful at clay pigeon shooting. You got Andy Poole, who was gunner. I couldn't remember his name in one of the earlier chats, but yeah, gunner. He was such a good shot that he used to win the Jackie Stewart would hold a clay pigeon shoot for the mechanics every year up at Glen Eagles in Scotland, and the winner of the Top Gun always won a Rolex watch. Well, I think Gunner had got two in his draw, you know, because he'd won. You know, he was a fabulous sportsman. He was I think he did a lot of boxing back in the day, so he got a good eye, but he was a really good shot. But one of the other guys, one of our gearbox men, Jerry Bond, I seem to remember now that he flew his own gun out there because he was absolutely determined to, that he was going to win this competition. So yeah, he took his own gun. That was sent out in the freight. He obviously got all the clearances that he needed to do with that. But we all headed off to this shooting ground, which was it was a fabulous place. I mean, it wasn't just shooting out in a field. I mean, this was a proper layout, and there was a lot of serious guys who did a lot of shooting. I seem to remember Richard West from McLaren. He was a really good shot, and he took it all very, very seriously. We'd all had little bits of goes at shooting. I mean, I'd done some shooting in the past, so I knew which way, to hold a gun and all the rest of it. One or two of the lads had never shot before. One of our fellas, Chris Hesse, I think he'd only picked up a gun a couple of weeks previously. I think he'd gone off for a little bit of tuition somewhere back in the UK, and he was fancying his chances. But anyway, the afternoon was going on, and there were half a dozen teams there, and as I say, we were having such a fantastic time. But the one memory that sticks with me was there was a little mechanic at Minardi, little Italian guy. He was a really little short fella, little moustache, all the rest of it. And he always reminded me of Bobby Ball out of Cannon and Ball. And he was always smiling, he was always laughing and everything. Well, not everybody was using hired guns or rental guns or, something that was provided for us. And for some reason, one of the guns that was provided was a pump action shotgun. Now, again, if ever you've done any shooting, you normally shoot with like a side-by-side gun or an over and under. You've got two shots. So you fire, if you miss, you have another go. Or if there's two birds, you fire and have another go. But this little Bobby Ball, Giuseppe, or whatever his name was, he'd got this pump action shotgun, and I think he put about 4 shots up the breech of it. Anyway, he jammed the gun, and he's trying to do this with the gun, and he heard one or two people, and he's laughing about it. But suddenly, he turns round and he's facing everybody behind him, and he's doing this with the gun. He's trying to clear it, and everybody hit the bloody deck because that thing could have just gone off, and he got a big bollocking for that. I think they took the gun off him in the end. But but we got towards we'd all had our shots and everything, and I think one or two of the experts were doing reasonably well, but the guy that took the prize at the end of the day was Chris Hesse, and he'd only been shooting for a couple of weeks. So he took the Top Gun prize, and I think he probably still talks about it to this day, if I know Chris. And he put one or two noses out of joint, especially the guys who, who took it seriously. So, but the next activity for us was we went out for a lunch, and there was this bar called the Circuit Sport Cafe, which actually played a little bit of a role in what I did in future years as well, and we'll come to that as we go through. But whereas we'd got that little bar in Hindley Street that we only ever used once, we really used to use this sports cafe quite a bit, and we got to know the management and everything, became friends with them. But they put on a lunch for us, a real boozy lunch this one afternoon. And I'm pretty sure, I can't fully remember, but I know there was a musician stroke comic on there then. And I'm pretty sure it was Kevin Bloody Wilson, because I've seen Kevin Wilson 2 or 3 times since. And he's one hilarious, earthy, blue, whatever you want to call him. He's one funny guy. But Kevin Wilson did this lunch for us. And then I think probably on that evening or one of the evenings, once again we were sort of, we seemed to be in a permanent, not a permanent stupor, but we like to drink. We were all thirsty fellas. But the one activity that was laid on for us, we all went out to Port Adelaide, and we were going out on a yacht race. Now, yachting and boats had never interested me in the past at all, but I thought, yeah, we'll go along and we'll have a bit of fun with this one. But we were all picked off into crews. I don't know, four on this boat, 4 on another boat, 4 on another boat. And we were off to do this race out in the bay. Beautiful evening, pretty breezy, which it needs to be for a yacht race. But I was crewed with these guys who were dead serious about winning it. Now, I didn't realise as well, because I thought we were going on the boat to almost like be a passenger. I didn't realise we got to crew the damn thing, and we were expected to pull the sails up and all the rest of it. And I just felt completely and utterly seasick. And I actually stood in the hatch of this yacht for I think the whole 4 hours that we were out there trying to keep my dinner down. I was useless to all the rest of the guys. They're hanging over and they're pulling the sails, and the boat's like this, and I'm trying to keep my head upright, and I was in the right state. And we got back to dry land, and that was that was a godsend to me. I'd had enough of that, and sailing yachts certainly isn't one of my things. Straight, on a quiet boat or something, but not when the boat's like that, bloody 45 degrees out the water. No, but we ended up with yet another party. I think it was the Royal Adelaide Yacht Club or something like that. Where people who are probably expected to be, in a cravat and a blazer and a jaunty hat and everything like that. Well, we turned up just in the scruffs that we'd got on, but we had a fantastic time, and it was, that was just another raunchy, mad evening of being in Australia.